Here we go again. Another Rotten Tomatoes special. A movie with horrendous Rotten Tomato reviews due to violence and pornographic images that because of these reviews will probably bomb at the box office. Now, obviously, I believe that premarital sex is a sin, and those who partake in such events should be condemned to the fiery depths of hell, and that's why I've been a virgin for 30 plus years of my life, not for any other reason. Especially not the length of my cock. But Jesus Christ, I'm so tired of these horrendous Rotten Tomato reviewers putting a movie down simply because a tit was flashed here and there, and somebody was snorting cocaine while getting a blowjob from a midget in one of the scenes. I mean, that's why Game of Thrones was so good. I wasn't there for the dragons or the nerdy fantasy shit. I was there to see Jaime and Cersei fuck. I mean, this movie can't possibly be that grotesque. I mean, I took my 5-year-old cousin to see this movie, and you know what he said to me? Cousin? What's cocaine and, why did she say she was gonna put it in her pussy? Alright, on a serious note here though, I am just so tired of Rotten Tomato critics immediately putting a movie down because it doesn't coincide with their political beliefs and their morals, and then coming up with some weird, ambiguous quote that makes it seem like they know so much more about cinema than the average person, and their viewpoint is so much more important, when in reality, it's just a collection of bullshit words that mean absolutely fucking nothing. I mean, what the fuck does this even mean? Babylon is a film too busy writing an elegy for the still breathing body of film as a medium to capture the true beauty and complications of being alive. Bitch, can you shut the fuck up? You make money critiquing movies, you fat fuck. Alright, maybe she's not fat, but she's still a dumb idiot like me. These reviews are literally like giving a 5-year-old the definition to like 3 big words and then telling that 5-year-old to use these big words in a sentence. It's like, yeah, will that sentence impress other 5-year-olds around him? Yes. But it also makes him seem like a little bitch. If you know so much about film and the history of the world, please explain to me how you can make a movie about the roaring 20s and not include a drug, alcohol, and sex infested party for the upper echelon people of Hollywood.
There's a lot of naked folks. There's a lot of naked folks. Yeah. Yes, there are. Just another day at work.
But don't you fear, you fellow idiots, because my review isn't going to contain these big fancy words or have weird conflicting moral and political biases. No. My review is going to be just like my cock. Short, simple, straight to the point, and inserted in a dead hooker. Alright, scratch that last part. Premarital sex is a sin. However, here we go. Now, before I give this review, I do have to give a warning, and I do have to say that I am slightly homosexual for number 1, Damien Chazelle, number 2, Justin Hurwitz, and number 3, and most importantly, Bratty Daddy Brad Pitt. Did I just say that? You bet your sweet ass I did. La La Land has been and will always be my favorite movie of all time. Brad Pitt makes me question my own homosexuality, and I paid an exuberant amount of money just to receive a 5-minute intro before the movie from the director Damien Chazelle himself. Now listen, I know you come to my reviews to hear an elegant, beautiful, drop-dead, gorgeous man who could probably pull Brad Pitt if he really wanted to, discuss film in an elegant and beautiful way, and also have an unbiased, straight-to-the-point opinion. And that's why I'm not going to be biased when I'm going to be talking about this movie, okay? I'm going to take out my love for Damien, Brad, and Justin, and really analyze this movie. It's the second best movie of the entire year.
He's pretty special, I gotta say. That Damien Chazelle, he's pretty special.
Listen, do you like simple Marvel movies where the main villain is a copy and paste generic cardboard cutout? Then this movie is not for you. Do you like movies with extremely developed character arcs and a complex but extremely well done plot, and also you're 6'5" with a ripped six-pack and pull hot bitches everywhere you go? Then this is the movie that is exactly for you. I'm gonna break this movie review into a very simple, idiot-proof 5-tier system. The beginning, the middle, the end, acting, and finally, the score of the movie. The beginning. Honey, I was shit on by a fucking elephant. Alright, I already know what the comments are saying right now. Oh, he's just a Damien Chazelle dick rider. He's just gay for Brad Pitt. Well, guess what, fuckboys? Here's my objectivity. Because I believe the beginning of this movie, as well as other Damien Chazelle movies, are not very good. And this is coming from someone who literally, no joke, believes Damien Chazelle is the greatest director of all time. Yes, call me off it, I probably am. But take La La Land, for example, a movie that opens up with a beautiful but slightly homosexual musical dance number on top of a freeway in Los Angeles. That's kind of what I was expecting from this movie. However, what I ended up getting was an elephant almost drowning a man in its own shit.
Just another day at work.
And well, I'm all for directors having the freedom to create whatever they want in their movie. That opening is most certainly going to turn a lot of people off from the movie. And also, I do think a lot of the critics were thinking, oh, I am a man of great intelligence. How dare I be presented elephant shit in the cinema? I am so much more high class than this. And then they probably go home to beat their children at night. Listen, if you take my review seriously, you need to see a psychiatrist. Listen, I don't want to stay on this opening scene for too long. However, I just don't understand the point of this opening scene. Was it funny? Kinda? And if you want to argue, well, it was to show how absurd this movie is going to be and how out there this movie is going to be. I don't think the events of this movie were nearly as absurd as an elephant almost drowning an innocent man in his own shit. Like, yes, we saw a midget bouncing on a pogo stick shaped like a cock while other people around him were fucking each other and doing cocaine. Listen, maybe scratch what I just said about the elephant being more over the top than other elements of this movie. I don't know what I'm saying. Maybe I'm on crap. The point is, I think a lot of critics saw this opening scene and said to themselves, this movie is too vulgar for me, and then proceeded to leave the theater and act as if they had watched the entire 3-hour film. And that's a shame because the middle and everything after that scene was absolutely fantastic. This movie's ability to keep an ADHD-riddled 20-year-old thoroughly entertained through 3 hours of film is actually unbelievable. I never once felt bored in this movie, never once felt like there was a scene that should have been taken out, and never once asked myself how much more time I was gonna have to spend in the theater. And you may argue, well, oh my god, you're only entertained because you're a hormonal 20-year-old and you like to see the tits and the asses of naked women. But you would be wrong because premarital sex is a sin and I do not look at naked women because of that. The comedy in this movie worked absolutely perfect. Damien didn't jizz comedy all over the screen like a couple of the movies I reviewed on this channel.
Let's bring the rainbow.
And there also wasn't too little comedy to where the comedy felt awkward. It was just right and just in the sweet spot. It didn't detract from the impactful moments of the movie, but I also found myself laughing hysterically like a goddamn cartoon character so many times throughout the movie. The middle, as perfect as Brad.
I know that was improvised, that wasn't in the script, but I thought, when else am I going to get the chance to kiss Brad Pitt? I'm just going to go for it.
I'm probably giving it to Margot as we sit right now.
The best way I can describe this movie is like taking 13 pills of acid and then realizing that you have a job interview in 20 minutes, but then somehow you still manage to get the job. This movie doesn't have one coherent plot. Each individual character in this movie has their own individual plot and story. I mean, there's like 5 different main stories in this movie, and somehow it doesn't end up feeling like my ex-girlfriend felt. All over the place and having 5 guys tangled inside of her at once. This movie somehow manages to feel coherent and together. And after seeing so many of the same kinds of movies over the past year, it was so nice watching a movie that felt unique and different. Also, titties. The end of the movie. An end more perfect than Brad Pitt's face? Does that exist? Just kidding, that's not possible. Going back to taking acid before a job interview, this movie somehow managed to tie up all of its loose ends while having like 7 different storylines going on and 7 different characters having their each individual story. I mean, seriously, it would be like you were at the job interview high out of your fucking mind on acid, and then the job interviewer asked you, what are your most important skills? And you started talking about how an alien abducted you and fucked you in the ass one time, but still somehow managed to relate it back to your skills and weaknesses, and it was like the greatest thing the job interviewer has ever heard in their entire life. And while I can certainly see why some people may say the ending was a little dragged on and it could have possibly been cut down a bit, and I myself in the ending was thinking, Okay, this has been going on for a little too long. How the fuck is Damien going to end this in a coherent way? But he still managed to do it, and because of that, I think the ending worked out absolutely beautifully. Damien, as a director, understands and does better than any director at showing reactions. I heard a famous philosopher, might have been Socrates, possibly Plato, it was probably Quentin Tarantino, say that we don't cry at sad moments. We cry at reactions to sad moments, and no one captures reactions better than Damien Chazelle. Every single one of Damien's movies have ended on the same kind of reaction, and it has worked brilliantly every single time. A simple smirk or a half smile can show so much more emotion than an actor simply saying how they feel. Damien allows his actors to act, and speaking of that, the acting, it was as good as Brad Pitt. Oh wait, Brad Pitt was in the movie.
Talking about your character and launching into this, I mean, what did it mean for you to be playing Manny and bringing this to life on the big screen?
I found something very cool, that is that I don't have a face.
Acting in this movie is probably the best overall acting in any movie this year. Robbie gives a Leonardo DiCaprio Once Upon a Time in Hollywood-esque performance, which is probably the best performance of her entire career. The main character, Diego Calva, whom I've never heard of in my entire life, somehow acts on or above the level of literal Oscar winners, and Tobey Maguire knocks my cock out of my pants. And also, Brad Pitt is... Woo! Alright, this is a future me editing this video. I had to cut that short because things got a little dicey. I'm straight, by the way. I don't know how many of you know that or believe me, but that's a fact for you, a fun fact. And lastly, an area that most people overlook in movies for some reason is the soundtrack. I've said this before on my channel, but the reason why Star Wars and Harry Potter are so much better than Marvel and DC is because John Williams has a massive 15-inch cock. And if John Williams has a massive 15-inch cock to slap you in the face with, let me tell you something. Justin Hurwitz has a 14.5-inch cock. And while this soundtrack is obviously not as good as La La Land, it didn't need to be. The soundtrack is so simple, but it's so beautiful. And that's why the reactions that Damien gets and the little smirks and the close-up of people's faces work so good. It's because while you're seeing the close-ups of these actors, Justin Hurwitz is just jizzing all around you. But you're not afraid of the jizz. It's warm. It's comforting. It makes you feel emotional, and you want more of the jizz.
And Babylon has tons of nominations tonight. What do you think it is about the film that connected with people so much?
I don't know.
Listen, the idea that this movie deserves a 56% from Rotten Tomatoes is possibly the most absurd thing I've heard since I found out that Joker got a 68%. Rotten Tomato critics are the worst individuals on the planet, should be condemned with premarital sex havers to the fiery depths of hell, and know less about film than I do. Listen, the idea that Glass Onion gets a 93% and Babylon gets a 56% is more insane than saying Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Just because a movie has gore and shows a couple of people fucking doesn't make it bad. We've all seen naked women and a dead hooker from time to time. In the words of Quentin Tarantino, when asked why is there so much gore and violence in his films,
because it's so much fun, Chan. Get it?
Not every movie has to have gore, violence, drugs, and sex. But just because a movie doesn't make it bad. For God's sakes, it's the Roaring 20s. It wouldn't make sense to not include a party filled with violence, sex, and drugs. The same way as it wouldn't make sense if I was making a documentary about Rotten Tomatoes to not include a bunch of clinically stupid 50-year-old virgins. Anyways, time to do the same exact thing that Rotten Tomato reviewers do. Let's rate the movie. Babylon by Damien Chazelle gets a 9.5 out of 10. The second best movie of the year, currently only behind Everything Everywhere All at Once. Alright, you premarital sex havers, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and we could finally put an end to premarital sex together. And also, join me next time, where I might be discussing Avatar, or honestly, I don't know. Just subscribe so you don't miss out. Peace.
I'm probably giving it to Margot as we sit.
Talk to slap you in the face with.
I don't have a face.
I'm slightly homosexual.
There's a lot of naked folks.
Dick shaped like a cock while other people around him were fucking